Well, hello again, YouTube. Petey Twofinger here. Today I want to talk about an unusual source for germanium transistors. I would encourage you to take a look at some other videos. This is like a 1 in a million shot, kind of an odd video. It's not necessarily going to be very beneficial. I have another demo video for Fuzz Factory. There's two versions of that. One is just the song. The other one I talk for about 20 minutes about getting them from a reputable supplier. Typically that can be an issue, but I would recommend like Small Bear Electronics. Has a great reputation. They're located in the United States, and you can find them on eBay as well. Now today's video, I'm talking about that getting lucky, that 1 in a million shot. This is why I have this ridiculous, hunter hat on. It's because today I am the germanium hunt, which I do a lot of resale shopping. We're lucky enough to live in an area. We've got two kind of wealthy towns in our areas. Where we live is right over here, on the other side we have Naperville. Where I live is more blue collar, middle class, upper middle class in some areas, but the point is, in the past 10 years, a lot of Goodwills have sprung up. I can go out in about 3 hours and hit a half a dozen Goodwill stores, all within 15 miles. There's just a ridiculous amount of good resale stores. And they price the electronics fairly affordable. There's always a lot of quality stuff going back to even some older stuff. And this is one thing that I never really thought about for a long time. I've done reselling my whole life pretty much. Even, later on, at ages where most guys, like at those ages, wouldn't be like all geared up on a weekend to go hit a bunch of resale stores. I was doing that. I've got a lot of, I don't want to say junk, but I got a lot of junk to show for it, so it isn't really necessarily anything to brag about. But I'll tell you what, this has happened to me at least 4 times, where I come home for under $3, I'll end up with a handful of germanium transistors, and that's a great day. That's a great day for me. So just the other day I went out to Goodwill, and I came back with this handheld, palm-sized AM radio, probably going back to the late 60s, maybe even the early 70s. I remember, and I may be incorrect about this, but probably 1971 or 1972, my father gifted myself and my older brother, we got matching AM handheld radios. And when I was looking this up today, I saw one that was very similar to what we had. They had a little stainless steel part that came out with a strap, and that went off. That I was like, that was that radio that I had that, So yeah, this is a handheld, portable. Portable radio, and I shudder to think of how many times it didn't dawn on me that I passed up a device that probably did have germanium transistors. Typically going back to the very early 70s, or much more likely into the 60s. And if you go back even further than that, we're going to be running into tube-based radios that are much louder. And that's a whole other video, because you can take those apart and convert that chassis, those tubes, into a tube guitar head, which is pretty cool, and there's guys that do that. What I've been doing, I have it's like a penknife, pocket knife, that has a regular and a Phillips screwdriver attachment on it that pull out, and I keep that on a mini carabiner on my keychain. So oftentimes when I'm at Goodwill, I will need some batteries to test something out. You go back to the toy section and just press any button on any toy till you find one that works, and then I'll go ahead and use that screwdriver to remove the batteries. So I often kind of find myself doing little in-field tinkering sessions at Goodwill using that screwdriver. So that's one of the things you're going to need if you're going to be doing this, because it really is best to go ahead and open it up. And part of the purpose of this video is I wanted to describe what you're looking for. If you don't know the numbers for these transistors, going back then, they have the plastic chassis of transistors, black plastic, and they'll often have a little bevel to them. Those typically, I have not run into a germanium transistor with that chassis style packaging. What I have run into are these silver, they almost look like electrolytic capacitors. These silver style ones, and then also the ones that have the green plastic coating on them. It's this color of green, and I do have to warn you because the capacitors are the same color of green. It was like they have this plastic wrapping, and that is on a lot of these transistors, so you have to basically just look for the part number. 2SB, is it 817? 2SB 827. 2SB 270. And let's see what else we got. Yeah, actually not able to read that. But the 2SB series, a lot of those that I have found, all of those 2SB transistors that I have found in these style radios have ended up being germanium transistors. This unit here, the AM radio, has 7. This is a PCB out of another one, and it has only 3, which to me is a little bit more typical. 3 or 4, yeah, this has 4. Excuse me. 2SB176, gotten a few of those. Also in a tape machine. There was a mini reel-to-reel tape machine that was broken, and it was like kind of a real crappy design. It took C batteries, 4 C batteries, and that was actually Japanese origin. That was full of germaniums. So yeah, you're looking for these Sanyos have the green on them. I think what I'm going to do with this one, because I already have a collection, I've got 50 germanium transistors right now. Now, almost all of those are bad. They're all just too leaky to really produce a good tone. But we'll see what I find in here. There's 4 in here. Definitely going to remove these out of here. And then there's 2 transformers as well. Those are audio transformers. So those will definitely come in handy. Now, today I was thinking about this because I have a little germanium test amp for Radio Shack. Like they have the little test amp that's got an 1/8 inch plug on it, and they were selling that when they closed. Well, if you go back, they had several slightly different models, and one of the very early models is gray plastic. That's a germanium amplifier. It's a transistor amp. It has a transformer in it, output transformer, but it's it's probably a 1/2 watt, but still, now that is like an antique. I don't want to mess with that. I'm keeping that whole. I'm not modifying it. There's no room to put a jack in it, not even an 1/8. It's so tight in there. But this, I'm thinking what I'm going to do is take this out of the chassis, and then, because it's like this spinner style pot, and I can't really access the points on the circuit board, so I'm going to remove it. And then I'm going to go in on, I believe it might be the middle lug, or well, it probably wouldn't be the middle, would it? One of the lugs of the pots is going to be where it ties in from the radio signal. So I could disconnect that and patch in a 1/4 inch jack, and then just use this as a germanium, a mini amp head. I very well could also try diode clipping on it. I mean, I really don't know, but typically this style of amplifier is a lot hotter than for a guitar signal. So if you turn it all the way up, it will clip. It should clip very nicely. I really don't know. I'm going to have to experiment with this. What I'm planning on doing is taking this out of here and then cutting it into a chassis, something like this. This is a printer switch box, and I get these. These are really starting to become popular at Goodwill. The guys that bought these probably paid $30 for them, and they have like, what do you call those, parallel port jacks on the back. But yeah, picking these up for about $2. They've got rotary switches on the inside, and then a massive amount of wires that are pre-tinned. So you take your iron to it, and those wires are about perfect length for a pedal. And there's about 100 of them in there, and they're pre-tinned. And it's really fast to be able to remove them with a hot iron if you kind of do it properly. You end up with, for $2 or maybe $3, the chassis, the rotary switch, and then all of that wire that's pre-tinned. So it's like, I was passing these up. I was like, I only want to pay $1.99 for them. And a lot of them were $2.99. And then I realized about the wire thing, and I'm like, what are you doing? There's a point where being too cheap. But yeah, I just wanted to show you, this is my test tone generator. This is RG Keen's quick and dirty test oscillator. I got a -10 and a +10 switch on it. LED, momentary contact. I caught in a volume pot, and then the power switch. So here we have this is just a little test amp. Now the batteries are dead in this test amp, so it's not exactly. But yeah, that's my quick and dirty test oscillator. And this is, I built this thing and I can't tell you how much I have used it. I use it often. So yeah, if you're into this kind of stuff, even if you own a little studio and you're good with an iron and you don't have one of these, this is just an unbelievably excellent tool to have. RG Keen's quick and dirty test oscillator. I'm actually going to make a sine wave generator with adjustable pitch, but here you are. I got this. Here's another one of these chassis that I built a battery amp into. Now this has a built-in NiCad power pack. The NiCad, and this is all Goodwill stuff. That's like a computer speaker, like the woofer, and then this is a grill from one of those. Chicken head knob came off of something I got from there, and then it's a NiCad battery pack that I got that at Goodwill too. So this chassis again is the same thing. It's one of these switch boxes. It's just a little bit bigger. They have them in different sizes depending on what's in there. And then this here is a mini amp head. I actually have a full demo for this, but it's got a fuse port, master volume, power switch, RCA and 1/4 inch, and then spring terminal jacks for the output. This is a 30 watt Class D amplifier board in here. It's 15 by 2, and I got a handy little, so yeah, this has come in handy more than once. I think I paid $18 maybe for the board. Made by a company called Shure Electronics. So yeah, that worked out absolutely fantastic. And I'm trying to think, oh yeah, you know what? I got one other thing I can show you from show and tell. The point is, this is all stuff that I get at Goodwill. If I were to continue showing the Goodwill junk, the video would be way too long. But the essence of it is, there is some handy stuff. This is the Belkin box, and this has a 12 volt sealed lead acid battery that I use for when we play outdoors. And we have around 30 plus of those batteries. They cost about 26 bucks, and then the shipping would probably be just outrageous unless you went to like a battery store and purchased them. But the Belkin box has the charger built into it, and it also puts out 13.5 volts. Now this is called the Yard Guard, and it's supposed to keep beasts out of your. It also has a motion sensor, but it's the Yard Guard, and this puts out high frequency. Put a 4-inch jack on the back, and then run that line just to the tweeter, and then put a little crossover in there. For a piezo tweeter, you don't technically need a real crossover. You can just use, a lot of people use a dummy load of like a power resistor, like the big block one that looks like it's made out of concrete cement, and then it's like the dummy resistor, and then there's maybe a capacitor. There's a couple parts on that, but it's kind of a debate about that. But we'll see. You know, I may end up just running a 1/4 jack, and then some of these homemade speaker cabinets that I built. I've gotten some bass amp speaker. I got a 10 from Goodwill for $3.99, and then I got a sub, another 10 that was $6.99. But I put those in 5-gallon buckets with tweeters, and sometimes I need an external tweeter, so the yard guard is going to come in handy with that. And then we have upstairs. This is a 2-bedroom. We have 5 kids under the age of 15. Most of them are under the age of 10. And they have an older one, and it's a 2-bedroom. And they're really loud. They wrestle and play soccer. You'll notice in my videos, you hear them. They never stop making noise. And oftentimes they go in the hall, and they jump down the stairs, boom, shake the whole building. And they have sticks, and they bang on the rungs for the armrail. And they play in the hall for hours. So I was thinking of putting the yard guard, hooking it up with a power supply and have a switch in here, so I could just, if they're out there, just to fire up the yard guard. But yeah, if you're into this kind of stuff and you're not Goodwilling, I would find out where it is in your area and go over there. Start making it one of your stops. I'm lucky enough to have a bunch of them, so I go all the time. I get here's a 9.6 volt pack. It's NiCad, but runs pedals just fine. So I've just kind of been collecting this stuff, and when I got these germaniums again, I thought I'm gonna do a video and talk about that, because I can't tell you how many of these radios that I've picked up and put down, and it never dawned on me. And one day I realized it. I'm like, you know what? I betcha there's germaniums in that yard guard or whatever it was, and there was. And since then I've been buying this stuff, and what I intend to do is test this out for an amplifier and see if this is probably gonna end up getting mounted in a box to use as a head. So what I did, I went ahead and opened up the radio and removed everything from the chassis. It was a single fastener, and then they had some little plastic clips that held it in, and cracked one side of that out of there and got at it. First thing I noticed is I took a look at the wiring for the speaker, and it was labeled, so the green wire was going to the negative connection. So I went ahead and soldered in a 1/4 jack. So we're going to test this germanium transistor amplifier with a 12-inch EV guitar speaker that's in I actually got this cabinet at Goodwill. Surprise, surprise. It's a 16mm film projector cabinet, company named Natco. It's a real cool cabinet I paid $10 for. And it was loaded. It had this old weird speaker in there. So I went ahead and got an EV for $25 off of Craigslist. Now, for the input, basically right now I'm just going to be using a 9-volt battery. Eventually I will solder in a 2.1mm DC connector, be able to run this off a 9-volt power supply. Probably gonna, see if I can get it going at 12. With this type of an idea, I'm not really going for stadium filling 100-watt super lead head. I mean, this is more of a tone type of experience, like a recording amp. Hey, I live in apartments, and I like playing around with little amplifiers, so this will be interesting. See what this sounds like when it's overdriven, and overdrive it just by turning it all the way up. So right now we have the power input's going to work because I got a 9-volt. We've got our output going to a speaker cabinet because I really didn't want to run the guitar through this. Is that a 3 or a 2.5? 2.5-inch speaker. So what I did to get the sound into the radio, I took a look at the volume pot. There's 2 connections on the side, which are like a ground through, where it has a built-in switch. You can hear that clicking, and that opens and closes a connection through this ground. I noticed that the red wire was going to the ground, so it's a positive ground circuit, like a Boss standard, right? Now, the other 3 normal connections on the pot, one of those connections had a yellow wire going back to the other side of the board, which is kind of a cluster solder point. taking a look at the board, there's a lot of stuff tying in there. It's real sloppy. Looking over here, yeah, it's a transistor. I just assumed because I was seeing that jumper wire, you know, like the old song goes,
these things does not belong here.
So I unsoldered that wire and I used my test tone generator, and I just got this here. It's 1/4 inch with some alligator clips. So I clipped the black one onto that ground connection, and then I took my center and I unsoldered that yellow wire that's going to one of the connections on one of the end connections on the pot, and clipped that on there, and sure enough I got the music. So that told me, well, there's your input. So I went ahead and cut in a green wire for the ground and a white where that yellow wire was, where I was getting sound, and hooked that up to this 1/4 inch jack. So I've got my input, I've got my output. I did some quick testing and it works. That's the neck pickup. Both. And, no, sorry, that was the bridge. Here's the neck. Both, and then here's just the bridge. So yeah, as you can hear, it's got a little overdrive to it now. Right now, the amplifier is running off a dead-ish 9-volt battery. It's not to say that it's actually dead. I think it was 8.3 or so volts. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hook up a 12-volt battery that, forgive me for, I don't want to hook this up backwards. I'm gonna actually look at this because I wouldn't want to reverse polarity this. Yeah, I was about to hook that up backwards. That would have been great on camera. Mr. Reverse Polarity. There we go. Sounds about right. So yeah, this is one of those sealed lead acid batteries that I got out of the Belkin backup boxes from Goodwill. And I believe its charge is probably around between 12.5 and close to 13. Not much difference. Now, here's the deal. I'm going to plug my Klon pedal in, bypass. This is just going to be, you're going to hear the difference of the buffer that's in the Klon. And it's really an incredible difference because it's going to basically fix the impedance issue that's going on right now. So in a case like this, if you're playing around with amplifiers and you're repurposing something, I'm going to go ahead and say 10 times out of 10, put a buffer into it. Look into the Tillman buffer. It's a single JFET, any kind of buffer. And if you're not really that hip on soldering something up from scratch, well, what are you doing watching this video? What you can do is take any normal Boss or Digitech pedal. Those have a buffer bypass. So you can put that pedal in line with the battery and shut the pedal off. So it's bypassed, it's not affecting. Well, that buffer will be actually in line in the circuit. That's how buffer bypass works. And like I said, nothing special. Any Digitech or Boss pedal, any pedal that's not true bypass, with the exception of going really far back to some of the old bad tone suckers, had just like a manual switch where the input stayed connected. But I digress. So any regular Boss or Digitech pedal, and you'll hear the amp just jump to life. It'll be louder and it'll be crisper and clearer, especially on a clean tone. So what we're going to do here, this is the, it was turned all the way up. This is same everything. Now we're getting a little hum. These pickups are awful. of them humbucker mode, so we lost that hum. That was just the clan buffer. Now, I'm going to turn the tone down a little bit. That was the clan was on, but quite a difference. Now I'll eliminate the clan buffer one more time. So yeah, the clan buffer is really strong. I'd say that would probably be, if you were having an issue like that, if the amp was a little bit low output, you know, rather than do the Tillman. The Tillman works. It's a single transistor, but the clan buffer it's an IC chip, and it's just a little bit more beef. It's a little bit more output. So there you go. I heard this amp. I'm going to have to decide now at this point, is that tone something I'm going to want over taking the transistors out and using them to build a boutique fuzz? So that's another consideration. I mean, a circuit like this, right now you can get TDA 2030A amp boards fully loaded with the heatsink for $1.50. I paid $1.27 for one of those. So considering that, it's almost like, do I want to mess with this? I mean, it's like, okay, it's a germanium amp, you know, it's a transistor amp, and that's really rare. And it does have a specific tone, this amp does. So it's almost like I'm going to want to play around with starving the voltage or boosting the voltage, and try some other pedals out before I make up my mind what I'm going to want to do with it. I mean, that probably would be the easiest thing, is to just cut it into a box and add the jacks with a volume knob, you know, put a fuse in it, maybe not. That would probably be the easiest thing for me to do. So it's going to be a question of weighing it out, because there's a good chance I could go ahead and take this thing all apart and then find that, well, they're all leakers. None of them would be good for making this circuit that requires a certain percentage of leakage to really work well. So I'm not here to tell you that it's smart to think that you're going to go to your Goodwill and find radios that are crammed full of great germanium transistors. What I'm saying is I go often and I find a lot of cool stuff. It's not every time, but typically 1 in 4 times that I go, there will be something really cool that I can apply to my musical hobby. So if you're not going to Goodwill, consider it. And if you do go to Goodwill, keep your eyes peeled for those portable radios, because a lot of the old ones do have germanium transistors in them, and you might get lucky. You might be able to build yourself a little amp head, or take those transistors and put together a fuzz rather than having to order and wait. You never know. So it certainly was interesting, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So go ahead, feel free to leave comments, but just keep in mind that I'm being pretty down to earth about this. I'm not saying that, you know, every time you go to Goodwill, there's going to be, you're going to end up with a couple of, you know, perfectly tuned bus faces, because that's not the case. Thank you very much. I enjoyed this one. This was a pretty fun video. So you guys keep on hacking, and peace. Don't forget your Germanium.